What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 18 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Konu.
And we've got another good episode today with plenty of positive Dodger updates to talk about. So first things first, we just want to give a huge shout out to anyone who has taken the time to listen to our podcast. It honestly means the world to us, and it's always weird in a good way to think other people enjoy listening to what we have to say, but it's also, of course, extremely appreciated. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Keep leaving those ratings if you listen on Apple. And if you guys don't mind sharing the podcast with other Dodger fans, that would be fantastic as well. And as always, you can find all of our social at Dodger Yard on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can find my personal at Randy_Radcliffe on Instagram and Twitter.
And my Instagram and Twitter is Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
So with all of that said, let's get into the actual baseball stuff everyone actually wants to hear us talk about. But to start things off, we want to wish a happy birthday to David Price and Brusdar Graterol, who are celebrating today. Also, happy belated to Kike and Muncy, who celebrated their birthdays on Monday and Tuesday. And happy early birthday to Chris Taylor, who's celebrating his birthday on Saturday. That's way too many birthdays. Yeah, way too many birthdays in 1 week. Because there's still other birthdays in August, but that's just this week. So, yeah, happy birthday to them. And keep doing what you're doing out there, Graterol. I'm appreciating all of him. I don't know if you saw his interview last night, but I love that man. He's great. So much fun to watch.
I skipped watching the game because I don't enjoy watching Cueto pitch, but I heard about it.
Yes, great guy to watch. But before we get into the latest updates, I just want to give a quick breakdown of some of the bigger things we saw this week. Our Dodgers, who currently have a record of 22-9, just finished up 17 consecutive games on Sunday, and they managed to go 13-4, and they aren't even playing their best baseball yet. They also became the first team in baseball to 20 wins. They lead all of baseball with 22 wins. They have the best differential at plus 77. They also have the best team ERA, which currently sits at 2.80. And of course, they lead the league in home runs with 61. We saw Kershaw become the all-time Dodger franchise WAR leader after his start in Seattle last week, passing up Pee Wee Reese. Bellinger hit the first Dodgers walk-off of the season on Saturday, which he didn't even seem to know he hit when he initially hit it. Mookie Betts became the first Dodger ever with 2 home runs and 2 stolen bases in a game on Sunday. And of course, last but certainly not least, we saw the Dodgers do an amazing tribute video for Kobe and his daughter Gigi Bryant before Sunday's game on what was Kobe's birthday. So that was really cool to see. Awesome to see all the Dodgers on the field wearing Lakers jerseys. Means a lot to the city of LA. Means a lot to, the entire world. Kobe's impact was everywhere, but it means
Matt Kemp as well.
Yeah, Matt Kemp was the only Rocky to wear a Lakers jersey, but we all know where Matt Kemp's heart truly lies, so that was not surprising at all. And one more thing. Mookie Betts currently has 999 career hits, and I have a feeling we'll see him be celebrating 1,000 tonight. He hasn't been very hot this past week, but I can't see him having an 0 for night. He's had a couple of those this last week. So let's hope he gets to celebrate hit 1,000 tonight. But it's safe to say we had a pretty solid last week as Dodger fans. So now we can get into our Dodger news. On Wednesday, shortly after recording our last episode, when I sat around and just gassed up Gonsolin the entire time, all excited, saying I don't want him to get sent back down. He was sent back down because that's the Dodgers for you. They have their whole game plan to this. So he was sent back to the alternate site, and they recalled Victor Gonzalez after a few games last week where the starters didn't go very deep. I understood the move because they needed a bullpen arm. I also thought that meant he'd be back in time for his next scheduled start, which would have been last night. However, he pitched in a taxi squad game Monday night, threw 100 pitches, so clearly that is not happening. He clearly did not pitch last night, and he's not going to be ready for the next couple days. However, Roberts did talk about Alex Wood, which we'll get into a little bit later, but he's not being activated this weekend like they were expecting. So I'm starting to think maybe we'll see Gonsolin get a start on Saturday or Sunday because he is traveling with the taxi squad, so it would make sense for him to get in there. I think Sunday would give him about 5 days rest. 5 days rest. So we'll see what happened there. And it's nothing against Gonzalez. He's been fantastic since being recalled. I feel like Gonsolin has worked his ass off for that spot, and he deserves it. On to the injury updates. On Sunday, the Dodgers reactivated Will Smith after he was on the 10-day IL for neck stiffness after his collision with Tatis Jr. In his first game back, he hit a home run against the Rockies on Sunday. Yeah, on Sunday, with him being activated. Keiber Ruiz did have to be optioned back to the alternate site. Ruiz is going to be exciting to watch one day once he's up here for an extended period of time, but it is understandable why the Dodgers currently had to send him down. I did find it a little bit interesting that Ruiz was not on the taxi squad, but it was Gale, but also at the same time, not that surprised because it makes sense that they want Ruiz at the alternate site continuing to get daily at bats. Alex Wood, who we just talked about, he was scheduled to pitch in a simulated game on Monday to figure out where he was at, and it didn't seem to go how he would have liked it to. You're going to talk a little bit more about his performance on Monday night in a little bit, but Roberts described it as positive but not overwhelmingly positive, and that they don't know the next step currently with Wood, so we'll see how that goes. I doubt we'll be talking about him being back on next week's episode, but as always, never want to see any Dodger players hurt, so let's just hope he gets on the right track. They have the depth, but it is always great to have that competition within the depth. As for Edwin Rios, there hasn't been a lot of talk about him, which seems like a good thing. Probably means his injury's doing fine. Sounds like he's actually still lined up to be activated when he's eligible to come back tomorrow on Thursday. Which did you?
I'll talk about that a little later, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, this is just based off of what the reporters are putting on Twitter. I have to be honest, I did not watch Monday's game. I kind of tuned in for certain parts of it, but I needed a day to get stuff done because that 17 stretch was killing me. So I didn't know that, but going off reporters said it sounded like he might be back, but I guess not. We'll see. You can talk about that in a little bit. If he is back, I want to see him get more at bats. Maybe it's time to sit Jock for a few games and let Rios take that DH spot against righties. On to Joe Kelly. He was scheduled to play catch on Saturday, was said to be trending in the right direction, but then yesterday Roberts said he's still a ways away, so I'm not totally sure where he's at right now. Just as a reminder, though, he will have to serve his 5-game suspension when he comes back from the IL, and the Dodgers are scheduled to play the Astros again in LA on September 12th and September 13th. So hurry up, Kelly, get back, serve that suspension. We're going to need you out there. Pedro Baez, another reliever who got put on the IL. That was last week on Thursday, got put on with a groin strain. Josh Sborz was recalled. According to Roberts, this was a new injury that had just shown up on the injury report last week, but Baez has looked off for most of the season, and Roberts is hoping once Baez heals and returns, he'll look more like his dominant self. That's it for the injury updates. On to kind of the minor league side of things very quickly. We did hear that Lux could be recalled soon. On Monday night, he impressed some of the higher ups with what he was doing, obviously, because Roberts is now talking about him being recalled when a couple weeks ago we had no idea when we'd see him. So apparently he looked very good. You're going to get into that again in a couple minutes, but it sounded good. We might be seeing Gavin Lux out there. Speaking of Gavin Lux, he is now on the taxi squad with the team after his performance, like I mentioned, in that game on Monday. Rocky Gale, Luke Raley, and Mitchell White and Tony Gonsolin are all on the taxi squad, which kind of fits the idea that Gonsolin may return this weekend against the Rangers. Edwin Uceta, not sure how to say it. Buddy doing some dumb things. On Saturday, we found out that the Dodgers sent him home from the alternate site after it was found out that he broke social distancing protocols, and of course the Dodgers decided to suspend him, which needs to happen. Not 100% sure where he went. I actually heard somewhere on Twitter from a reporter, the Dodger reporters did not confirm this, but that he actually left the country to go home, which is a big fat no. So I don't know how that happened, why team officials were not warned ahead of time, and why it seems like he just took off. But that's not good. Either way, this being as serious as it is, team can't take any chances and any player being selfish right now, which that is with all things considering. They can't be here. So Dodgers did what they needed to do. They have suspended him for the time being. Don't know what else is going to happen, but with him being suspended, it seems like that opened up a spot on the player pool for Jacob Amaya. I'm not sure where the player pool number currently stands, but on Monday it was announced he would be joining the team at the alternate site, and he is one of our top middle infield prospects. So good for him. I've heard his name in the system for a while. Don't know too much about him, but I do know you actually mentioned this before we started recording. He's a top middle infielder, so he's been putting in the work. Said he's been staying up to date. He's been at Rancho getting hits in when he can because he was not at the alternate site until this week. So maybe we will see him in a taxi squad game. But now that I got
He was in Monday's game.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because he got called up Sunday. So never mind. He probably knew on or Monday he got called to the player pool. So he probably knew on Sunday. So that makes sense. So with that said, I got my first 10 minutes out of the way. So now that I can stop ranting and talking, you can let us know how that game went on Monday.
Okay, so yeah, the Dodgers had a taxi squad game on Monday, and as you mentioned, it was started by Alex Wood and Tony Gonsolin. Wood was supposed to go 4 innings, but he only went, I think, 3 1/3. He struggled with his command. I'm not 100% sure where his velocity was because I don't recall seeing it being displayed on the screen. But I don't think he was impressive. And by Robert's comments, it doesn't sound like the Dodgers brass were too impressed with him either. Gonsolin pitched 6 innings, as you mentioned, 100 pitches. He did give up 5 runs, but it was really to only 2 players. The 2 players combined for 4 home runs, and there was 2 each from Lux and Zach Rex. Now, Lux led off the game, and he got a 2-0 fastball, and he just demolished it into the visiting bullpen in right field. Other than that, he got every other hitter out pretty much, except for those 2. He was struggling with them. So it was a bit of a weird outing for Gonsolin for sure. He made a few mistakes, but again, it was really to only those 2 batters. Everyone else, he looked fine against. Speaking of Lux, he looked good, really good. I know Roberts had made this big deal about his swing, but to me, it was never his swing. It was his confidence and timing. But no matter the case, if it was his swing, then to me, it looks like it has been fixed. It could have just been this one game, but I was definitely encouraged by the at-bat quality I saw. He made pitchers throw a lot of pitchers. He fouled off pitches. He had a really good eye at the plate. He drew a walk. And when he made contact, it was really loud contact. So I really enjoyed his 4 plate appearances. And actually, I enjoyed watching this game. As you know, I'm a big minor league guy. So I actually enjoyed watching this more than any Dodger game so far this year, which is saying a lot. Um, but yeah, go back to Lux. Judging by his at bats, he looks comfortable. He stepped into the box. He looked confident, and he looks like he's ready to go. He looked like he might have put on a little bit of weight. So, like I think I mentioned in previous podcast during summer camp, he looked like he had slimmed down a little bit. It looks like he put that weight back on. So good for him. Maybe he was sick. I don't want to speculate or anything, but you never know what could have happened.
His whole thing, sorry to interrupt, his whole thing with the way that he responded to not being at summer camp still kind of trips me out a little bit. Just because it seemed, again, it's none of our business. He did not have to tell us. I'm not upset. I do not care that he did not tell us. It just kind of sounded like the way he went about it, he seemed almost kind of upset, offended. So yeah. I don't know if he was sick. I hope he wasn't. I'm hoping it was nothing more serious than that, because every other player who was sick or had a false positive, unless he had a false positive and he's pissed off and angry that he missed that time because clearly it affected his development. But I wish we knew, only because I would like to know what the cause was, but I'm 100% fine with not knowing, because when it comes down to it, it's not our business. I just feel like that whole thing was a little strange.
Yeah, it was a little weird, and I don't know what was going on, but if he's fine now, that's great. So I saw a lot of people saying that he should get called up, and I would agree. Again, judging by his at bats, he looks comfortable, and it seems like he's found where he wants to be. Of course, he could come up and struggle, but I still think it's a to give him a fair shot and call him up and see if he can be better offensively than some have been. I think Lux can start 4 or 5 times a week, and then Kike can start the others, and then you can move Kike around the diamond as well. Kike could even be a defensive replacement late in games, since if necessary, since defense is where he shines. I just think this would maximize the team the best going forward is having Lux in there against righties. Lux against righties and Kike against lefties. Even though Kike is hitting better against righties this year, it's still not that much better than lefties because Kike hasn't been all that great offensively this year. But I just going forward, I think that would maximize the team best. Moving on. Did you see Bobby Miller pitch at all?
I did. I actually turned it on once you told me he was in the game. I had a very good time with that. His movement is disgusting. I
Yeah,
That was like the first thing I saw was like how much his movement was on his like not his I don't even think it was his breaking pitches. I don't know exactly what he throws time and time again. I keep saying this. I suck with pitch recognition, so if they don't tell me what it is, I don't usually know.
he threw a slider to Ruiz that just ate him up.
Okay, I did see a video. I wasn't watching that live, but I did see video. But I can't remember who he was facing. There was a big lefty on the mount or in the box, and he was throwing something in there. But the guys couldn't keep up with him. He was powering fastballs in there. It looked like. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
yeah. So he made an appearance. He pitched 4 innings, gave up no runs. I felt like he mixed his pitches very well. The slider and curveball, as you had mentioned, the movement was nasty, and then he pumped in those fastballs where hitters couldn't catch up to it, like Terrence Gore and Luke Rayleigh and things like that. So, to me, it looks like his delivery was simplified a little bit. It didn't look as funky as it did in college, so that's great. It was a scrimmage game, but he still brought the intensity, and you love to see that because he takes his craft seriously. So I think he's someone that we can see soon. I'm not saying this year or next year, but 2022 maybe if his development continues, he could be one that we see in the rotation very soon. Moving on to Edwin Rios, he was coming. Obviously, he's coming from an injury. He had 4 at bats in the first 2 innings. He got in the bat every half, 2 at bats every half inning. He went 2 for 4. Both his hits were off Alex Wood. He did not run though, so whenever he hit, if it was a single, somebody would just go to first base for him, or if it was a ground ball out, he wouldn't run at all, and they just throw him out at first. So I don't know that it didn't look like they were really testing his hamstring injury to me, which I don't know if that's a good thing because him running is going to be a big hurdle for him coming off the IL. Um,
I will say, sorry. That makes sense. Because I was wondering when I mentioned it why you said. However, I don't. Only reason why I don't want to read into that too much is because his strain was not very serious. It sounds like at least, which is very good. It wasn't like the whole Corey Seager thing where he was going to be out a month. Um, and so if they don't plan on having him back till tomorrow, which was Thursday, that still gives them Tuesday, Wednesday to test him out and run him, and hopefully he was running. But yeah, that is not the greatest sign that he was having other guys run for him. Hopefully that was just like a precaution thing. There's no point because wasn't it really hot? I think it's been.
I don't know
Oh
how
wait, you
hot it
just got
was.
back.
It might
Yeah,
have been.
I think it's been really hot in LA lately, so that doesn't totally surprise me. Maybe they just didn't want to agitate it, but yeah, that doesn't seem great. But hopefully it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, if it was a precaution thing, then that makes sense. It was just something I noticed that he didn't even bother to run, and I was just like, well, that's not great. But yeah. So moving on, Bruce Dog Gratterall also made an appearance. He struck out 2, then gave up a double. It looked like he was working on a new slider grip. So when he came out, usually when Gonsolin and Wood were pitching, they would just go out there and pitch. But when Gratterall came out and pitched, he actually had 2 coaches with him, and they were showing him how to hold the ball, and then he throw his slider. Got really good results the first 2 batters before giving up the double. So that was definitely nice to see. those were really my main takeaways from the game. So we can start jumping
I
into
have a question for you actually for
yeah.
Gratterall. I saw someone say this last night and I never thought about it. I don't even know if I knew he pitched on Monday. Um does it not seem odd that they pitched him on Monday in a taxi squad game knowing that they had a game on Tuesday and that they could possibly, like, this isn't someone who's on the taxi squad. This isn't someone who's at the alternate site. This was one of our big league arms who we saw could have been probably really useful in that extra inning game last night against the Giants. His last outing the one where he was faced the Padres and got Machado, or was it a time after that? I don't remember when his last outing was, but like, did something happen with him that they found the need to throw him in a game like that, that they had to have someone on the mound showing him what to do enough to not allow him to pitch in another game? Like, have you seen anything, or is that just like a
I
weird thing that they did?
I haven't seen anything, but I will admit when I first saw him, I was like, "What the hell is he doing here? Shouldn't he be in San Francisco?" Um, but then when he got out there and I saw what they were doing, I was like, "Okay, this might be like a scheduled throwing day for him or something." So they wanted to get him some work against live hitters and work on some things. That's the way I took it. Would it have been nice to see him last night? Yes, because I mean, I don't know if they really needed him because we don't know how he would have done. But yeah, so I don't know if something's wrong with him, but it looked like they were just kind of working on a new slider grip and seeing how that worked out.
Okay, maybe that's just how he is as a pitcher. Maybe he needs like live ABs to have that kind of feel to
Right.
his when he's on the mound and working on his
Yeah.
mechanics. So that
I
would
mean,
make
he's only 21, so he's still got time.
yeah. So that would make sense.
So we're gonna move on to the questions, and first question is, who are your hitter and pitchers of the week?
My hitter of the week is Cody Bellinger, which feels amazing to finally say, because he's not been good this year for the most part. It seems like he found his swing and started to look like the 2019 NL MVP again. Over the last week, he is slashing 435, 519, and 1,043 with an OPS of 1,562, which is insane. He has 10 hits, four of those being home runs, four walks, and four strikeouts. I think the guy might be back, and I'm excited for it. We need him. As for my pitcher of the week, that's got to go to Walker Buehler, who came out and finally had a game that we all expected from him against the Rockies this weekend. He went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run. But the impressive part for me was him striking out 11 and walking 0, because his command has seemed a little iffy this year. And not his last start, the one against the Angels, but the two previous starts, he had given up 4 walks in that game and 3 walks in the other game. So this was actually the first game all season he did not give up a walk, and it's his second outing all season he did not give up a home run. So I felt very confident watching him out there. But it just felt so damn good to see him. And I'm super excited to see his start tomorrow against the Giants, to see if we get the same guy out there or if that was just an not unfortunate, it was a very good outing, but hopefully it wasn't just like a one-time thing and he goes back to what he was doing. Hopefully this is him trending upwards.
Right. So for me, my hitter of the week was Cody Bellinger. You've already named all the stats, so there's nothing else for me to say. As far as pitcher goes, I had a feeling you were going to go with Bueller. So since this decision was a little more difficult than hitter of the week, where there was really just one option, which was Bellinger, this one I felt like there was two. So I went with Kershaw. He had 7 strong innings, a 4-hit baseball. He had 1 run. He had 11 strikeouts. Didn't ever seem like he was in trouble. Of course, his one blemish was a home run, which is pretty part of the course at this point. But that's back-to-back strong outings for him, and I'm just hoping it's something that he can continue to build upon going forward. Now, on to the next question. The trade deadline is Monday, next Monday, and the Dodgers aren't likely to make a trade, but should they?
I don't know. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed after last night's game because I literally spent all yesterday morning defending the pitching, saying there's no way they should. I had even wrote in my notes that I don't think they should. My reasoning for why I don't want them to is because I do think this team has the talent, but at the same time, it's the uncertainty of how this season is going to play out that gets me. And I just don't want to trade away big pieces. I know it wouldn't be any like massive pieces. I mean, it could if they were going to go get someone like Plesac or Clevenger, but I'm seeing guys like Bauer's name tossed around a lot, and I understand why fans are talking about him, but he would be a rental. So how much are we having to give up for that when we're not even guaranteed the playoffs are going to happen? Um, so it's hard for me to have a straight answer on this, but I lean towards no. However, Urias' start last night doesn't make me feel too good. Starting pitching's been pretty good all around. If you continue to have Kershaw, Buehler, May, and Gonsolin throwing the way that they have been, that could be your pretty solid for a starter, but it would be a little bit nicer to have that fifth one in there with full confidence. If they're going to trade a rental, I would like to see someone. I would like them to offload Jock, possibly even Kike. Sorry guys. Then I can maybe get behind it. But I, outside of improving those players positional wise, I just don't know what we could actually do to be improving.
Okay, and that's fair. My answer was yes. Now they probably don't need a bat because they have in-house options such as Rios coming back or Lux and McKinstry can be called up. But the pitching should be in question. I mean, right now you're not getting any length from Stripling, Urias, or even May. Now this is going to be taxing on, and it has been taxing on the bullpen, and you saw the result of that last night. The bullpen has been pretty dominant all year, but at some point they're going to get tired and not have their best days. So trading for someone who can eat up innings can't hurt. Plus, if you're all in on this year, you need to get someone for the playoffs because at this point, you have Buehler, who we all know is good. You have Kershaw, who I love, but his playoff pitching is inconsistent at best. Then there's May and Gonsolin, who are young, basically rookies. Can you really count on them? Julio can't seem to find his command whatsoever. Stripling's awful. And then there's Alex Wood. Can we really count on Alex Wood, Stripling, or Urias? So the Dodgers aren't really set up the best right now, and it's only putting more pressure on the already overworked bullpen. Now, I'm not 100% sure who they could get, but you've mentioned some names. There's also like a Lance Lynn or a Taiwan Walker. They might just need somebody, even if it's not for the playoffs. They just, for right now, they might just need somebody who can go 6 innings, 7 innings, give up 2 or 3 runs, and that keeps the bullpen semi-fresh. So yeah, my answer was yes.
I do want to say two things for two of the pitchers mentioned that have struggling. Um, I don't know why Stripling's struggling. I bummed out he's struggling because that first outing he had was fantastic, and I kind of felt like he has deserved this starting spot. So that one bums me out. I don't know what's happening there. I thought that this was going to be the year for him. Whatever's going on, I hope he finds it, whether it's out of the bullpen or if they put him back in the rotation. As for Urias, I found out last night listening to Robert's post-game interview that they are changing his delivery, that he's been working on that for the past week. So he's actively making in-game adjustments to his delivery. So I'm curious as well as to how much that has affected his last two outings. So those are things to keep an eye on. Well, the Urias thing is don't have anything for Stripling, but Urias just to keep in mind.
All right. Well, the Dodgers did that last year. I think with Bueller, they changed his delivery. They tweaked it a little bit for like 2 starts, and they weren't great. So then he went back to his original delivery. So I don't like the fact that they tinker with this during the season. Um, Urias has the talent, but for whatever reason, his command is off. And if his last 2 starts and it's his delivery that they're tinkering with, it's really not working. So they might need to stop that, or if they want him to continue to do that, send him down. He deserves to be on the roster, but if you're tinkering with it and he needs to work on something, then just send him down to the alternate site so he can work on that without messing up the rotation or going out there for 2 innings and doing nothing. So that's my only thing with it.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
since we were talking about the trade deadline, and you had actually mentioned Jock Peterson, is Jock Peterson on the block? Do you think?
Um, I imagine the team will obviously listen to offers for any player. Of course, we have our untouchables, but they're still going to listen. But especially Jock, consider he'll be hitting free agency. I just don't know how many teams are going to look at Jock when he just isn't hitting the ball well. We are 31 games through the season now, and he's currently slashing 187, 299, and 373 with 4 home runs. For the most part, he hasn't really brought any value to the team this year. My only question would be how much the front office believes in him come October. We've seen what Jock can do come playoffs, and he's usually one of our most productive bats. I think the front office maybe keeps something in mind like this, but maybe that's just me overthinking the whole scenario as a fan. Then again, as bad of a season as he's been had, I'm not sure I really want him to start any games come October unless there's a drastic change. So I'm kind of having a hard one with this. I don't really know who they could send him to with him being a rental and struggling. It's not like he's struggling and they're going to get 2 years on the back end of him. But like I mentioned earlier, like we have Edwin Rios and Jock's defense. He's not really out there providing much defense value. So if he's just going to be sitting in there at DH, like let's get Edwin Rios in there and either figure out what's going on for Jock or just sporadically use him as a pinch hitter, because I don't know what's going on there. But to answer your question, I don't know, because I just don't know what you're going to get for him right now, and I don't know how much hope or faith the front office has in him come October.
Yeah. So I went with probably not, but like if a team wants him for a second half push, if they're like on the verge of the playoffs since it's expanded, or just hoping like a change of scenery would help that he breaks out soon, then I would personally move him for a pitcher, whether it be a starter or a relief pitcher, and then I would call the Red Sox about Benintendi, but that's for another time. Yeah, there's no question about it. Jock has definitely struggled this season, and I'm starting to think maybe the almost trade to the Angels just kind of mess with him mentally, and he kind of just doesn't want to be here anymore. It kind of feels that way, and if that's the case, it might be best to just ship him off, even if it's for like a bag of peanuts or something, because again, he's providing nothing at this point. He's been a net negative on offense and defense, which is obviously not great. So yeah, I don't know.
I kind of feel like he might be the only guy truly left on the roster who just hasn't found it at any point. Like we've seen, the only other guy that also comes to mind is Kike, but we've seen Kike have moments where he's at least hitting the ball hard or making good defensive plays, where I feel like Jock is kind of the only one who's just been kind of chilling all season and not really providing anywhere, which is weird because usually it's understandable that he doesn't provide against lefties, but even against righties this year, like I don't know what is going on, but it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
I
It's
I, I,
yeah.
I agree with you. Um, that at least Kike provides defense because that's what he does well, and he has had his moments where he's gotten like a big hit or two. He had a 3-run home run a few games ago. So yeah, with Jock, I I'm struggling because I don't know.
Yeah,
It's really weird.
I'm looking at his 2020 percentile rankings, and yeah, it's just not great. His hard hit percentage is 53 percentile. Uh,
That's terrible.
Barrel percentage is 64, which is okay. It's not ideal at all. Expected slugging 66. Weighted on base average 68. His exit velocity is up there with 87. When you get to defensive, it's kind of a mess. He's a 20th percentile outfielder jump, outs above average 26. His sprint speed is 11, which makes absolutely no sense, which makes me kind of now think that you might be right, because there's no way Jock is that slow. He's not 11th percentile when it comes to sprint speed. That's awful. And his whiff percentage is at 41. So he's not
to me, mentally, just doesn't
going
seem
anywhere. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I agree. I don't know what's happening. Like I mentioned, so I'm looking at his numbers now. He has seen 12% less fastballs this year than he did last year. And he has seen 6% more breaking balls and, not great with math, give me a second, 5% more with off speed. So clearly he's seen less pitches, less fastballs, and he's always kind of struggled with the breaking stuff we've seen and off speed. But if he's got to
adjust,
if you can't make that adjustment, that's extremely problematic. Especially when he's been in the league as long as he has. It's not like he's a rookie. He just isn't getting it done. But yeah, I didn't realize that till I looked at his numbers a little bit closely. That's more concerning now. So, all right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, to the next question, do you expect to see anyone called up that we haven't seen yet?
I think Gavin Lux is the only person I see at this point. Only way I really see any other position player coming up is due to injury. It might even be that way for Lux, but after Monday night's taxi squad game, I don't think that really still stands. I think we'll see him. When it comes to pitching, I'm not sure we'll see any new guys, not new players, but new in the sense of this season up there. Maybe to see someone like Gray, the Dodgers will have to have a huge lead in the division, and maybe they want to get some work in for those guys at the big league level. But at the same time, that doesn't logically actually make sense when it's a 60-game season, because you need your everyday pitchers in there, making sure they're ready to go. They already had a short summer camp. So I really don't know. I've never been more indecisive about any baseball related stuff in my life like I have thanks to 2020. So I want to say I don't think so outside of Lux, but I really don't even know at this point. We could see a pitcher like we see White is on the squad, but I think Gavin Lux is really the only true candidate left who has a chance to be called up to the big league team this year.
Okay, so I said, like, on the offensive side of things, I can see them staying the same, barring injuries, of course, but also could see a path for Lux or McKinstry being called up. I know McKinstry was technically already called up, but we didn't see him play in the game, so he still made my list. As far as pitching, I think we could possibly see a Mitchell White or AJ Ramos being called up and getting into games because, again, the bullpen has been taxed and overworked, and and them being able to get called up, White or Ramos, who are fresher arms at this point, is a good idea to give some people a day off, whether it be somebody who's pitched a lot like Trinan or Alexander or whoever the case may be. So I think something like that might work if you put, Alexander on the Phantom IL and you give Ramos or Mitchell White a shot just to give Alexander some days off or whatever the case may be. So I can see that happening. Also, one other quick note is I think Santana probably should be sent down as well for someone like Ramos or White or somebody else, or Marshall Kozlowski, who also pitched in the Monday game, who looked really good, because he's just not cutting it, if we're being honest. I don't want to scapegoat him for the 2-run home run he gave up, but he gave up a home run to Donovan Solano. That's not okay in my book.
Yeah, I mean, this year, Donovan Solano is one of the best hitters, and he's barreling up the ball like
But he gave up
crazy.
A home run. If it was a single, I could understand. A home run?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I've stopped questioning everything this year because literally nothing makes sense when it comes to baseball this year. We're seeing things like Mike Yastrzemski. He's very good, but like out there doing.
He was good last year.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, coming out is like these top tier players, like everybody, like there's just these players out here that are coming out, and not him necessarily. I was reading his name on something on Twitter, but I'm saying like we're seeing a lot of certain players like really come out and just blow up in a way that I think no one was really expecting in 2020. And I think it's helped a lot of the younger players in a weird way because I think they are obviously in much better shape. So I think it's helped a lot of players like Donovan Solano. And because pitching hasn't been great all around the league, it's been pretty rough. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been weird, and Solano's been good offensively. It was just I when he hit the home run, I was like, this isn't right. How did and even before that, Santana hasn't been all that great. So
look, Donovan Solano might have hit a home run, but let's both be honest here. The most problematic thing is the fact that Brandon Belt did what he did to us last night. Like that's bad because Brandon Belt should not be doing what he did last night to us. That bothered me more than anything. Like he's
I feel like Brandon
uh,
Belt is better than Donovan Solano. So it wasn't really all that surprising. He had a good game. It
yeah, but
happens.
he's just I mean, he hasn't been good since 2016, so that's what's frustrating. He hasn't hit above two.
Neither has Brandon
He
Crawford. He
hasn't
had three
hit.
hits as well.
Yeah,
Things
well,
happen.
that's what I'm saying. I'm not a fan. They shouldn't be happening. Not with this team.
But again, I just feel like it's because Urias didn't do his job. It had to go to the bullpen, and the bullpen has been because nobody's going long distance besides Kershaw. Even when he gave 4 runs, I think he still went 5 or 6 innings. So you're at least getting length. Urias last night went 3, and the day before he went 1.
Yeah, like one
May only goes
and
like
two thirds.
4. Gonsolin has had a few of 5 or 6, but other than that, Stripling hasn't really done all that much. So it's like it's taxing on the bullpen.
Yeah.
So that was my thing with the whole trade thing. But
No,
that's in the
that
past. I
much I
don't.
understand. I agree. The starters' problem has been length. Outside of that, I don't really have too many issues with the starters as a whole. Like as our starting pitching as a whole, I don't have many problems with it, except for the fact the length is so irritating. Um, May has been great this year, but his efficiency is not. He just throws a lot of balls. Same thing with Urias. I can't remember the last time I've seen a pitcher have as many 3-2 counts as I've seen Urias have this year. Um, and that's just never gonna work out. You're never gonna last in games very long if you're constantly out there giving up are getting the counts to 3-2. Even if you're getting them out, you're still not going to be in there very long. So, yeah, that's a problem, and it has to be fixed because playoffs are a little bit longer this year, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they
yeah.
need to figure it out.
And I agree with May. I think he's done really well. He really hasn't been efficient, but I think it's more so because he's relying too much on his hard stuff instead of going to the slider or changeup. They might not be where he wants them to be, but just to keep the batters honest, he should probably throw it just a little more, keep them off balance, and then you can go back to your hard stuff or whatever the case may be. But he should really start mixing his pitches just a little more. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be fine. He can go 6 innings. I don't think he has a problem doing that. But he just can't put hitters away because he refuses to throw his secondary pitches.
Yeah. No,
He
May's
just keeps pumping the fastball.
May's
And
been
these are major
great.
league hitters. They're going to start timing that.
Yeah. May's been great. I've got no issue with him out there, but I think he's not going in there very deep because once he gets the third time of the lineup and you've seen that fastball come at you already 2 at bats prior, it's not really, and it's going to obviously slow down as the game goes down and lose some of its movement. You're going to start seeing guys, like you said, pound it. However, he isn't giving up runs. So, I mean, he is, but like he hasn't given up more than 2 runs, I think, all season in a start. So the dude's getting it done. I need length from him. If we could
Yeah.
get some more length out of him and more length, even I just want to say Gonsolin. I know he went, I think it was 7 his last outing, and he went 6 and 100 pitches in Monday's game. Like that's great. That's all I want. I just hope we can keep that consistently with him, which I think the way he's throwing this year will be good. Because I'm not 100% sure we're gonna need. Do we absolutely really need 5 starters come October? Like, is that a must?
The more the better.
Yeah. I mean, the more the better, yes. That is, yeah. You can
Because
always
again,
argue that point,
if you're
but
just okay, so say you're relying on Bueller, Kershaw, May, and Gonsolin. Those are your four that you're relying on. You have one solid person you know will get it done.
yeah, Walker Bueller.
Yeah. Other than that, again, Kershaw he might be great and then he might be bad, and then May and Gonsolin you don't know because they haven't really been in that position yet. So I mean, I guess this year would be a great time for them to see if they can handle it. But again, if they're all in, I don't know if you really should be counting on them in such big spots already.
That makes sense. May, I do see slightly a little worried about big game. Although he did, I don't want to say I don't think he'll do good, but just as something I see between him and Gonsolin, like May stepped up on opening day, big, just didn't face a great team, so that much wasn't huge. He stepped up when they played the Astros. So I thought that was big too. Astros kind of were playing like shit at the time, so I'd be interested to see if he faces them again. But what we saw Gonsolin do last year against the Yankees, when that team hit the way they did, and they hit our other starting pitchers the way they did that series, I kind of have a feeling that Gonsolin is very like unshakable. He's going to be a guy that can get in. He looks so calm out there all the time. Like he
Yeah.
never looks like you're getting to him. He doesn't look frustrated. He never speeds his stuff up on the his delivery, any of that. Like he's never frantic about anything. So I'm very confident in Gonsolin. It might be naive. I don't care. But Gonsolin
I
and
will say this: even though the Mondays game didn't matter, he was visibly frustrated.
yeah, and I'm sure I'm that makes sense, especially in a uh, situation like that, and you've given up 4 home runs when you haven't given up any runs all season.
Yeah.
So if he had a game like that, I could see him getting frustrated, but for the most part, he seems to be pretty locked in there, which I like and I think is going to be huge come October, especially for someone who's never been in a game like that before.
So you trust him?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He's probably my second go to, and it's nothing against Kershaw, it's nothing against May. I just I don't know. What I've seen from Gonsolin over the last year and a half, that's my go to for right now. Even just in regular season, he's the guy to go to.
Oh, and you know what? I don't have any arguments with that. I agree with your points. Personally, I still think they need to go get another pitcher. Again, even if it's not for the playoffs, just to eat up some innings, just to keep the bullpen fresh. But as far as being a number two go to over the last year and a half, I agree that Gonsolin has been that guy. Outside of the his Diamondbacks debut, but that was his debut. It
Yeah.
happens. Other than that, he's been great. And that Yankees game really just showed me he's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the craziest lineups that baseball's ever seen, and he went out there and just like had no problem against them. I did have a question though, because you keep mentioning starting pitcher. Who? Who would you? Who? If it was up to you, who would you trade for, and what are you trading?
Oh, so I would probably just try to go big game hunting. I don't know where the Reds are, but I probably would ask them about Bauer. I know he's a rental, but that means you probably shouldn't be able to give up much. Maybe you give up Amaya, who we were just talking about. Um, but I don't think she'd be. Maybe like a Machado package would work. And like we know that Bauer has said he only wants to sign 1 year deals from now on. So the Dodgers could possibly just give him a 1 year deal with a fat money. He accepts it and he's here for a year and a half at least. And then you let him go or whatever the case may be. So Bauer would make a lot of
To
sense.
answer
Or
your
you can
question before you move on to your next player, the Reds are 11-17, and they are 6.5 games back from a first place spot. So they're basically fourth place in that division. Only team worse than them is the Pirates.
okay, so this next if they have like a huge well there's only what 3 or 4 days left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if they decide to sell and they probably should just to get something, he would probably be the first one I go to. I know a lot of people don't like him. I get it. Um, if not, then the other person to go get, a lot of people don't like him either. So I guess Clevenger, because he's been there before, especially with the Indians. We know he can pitch. It might take it's going to take a lot more to get him though. So that's why Bauer would be my number one. And just yeah, I mean, there is Plezak, but I didn't like his. It wasn't an apology, so I can't say that. I didn't like what he said there. He just doesn't seem like the smartest person. You have people like Lance Lynn who can probably go 6 or 7 innings easily. Only problem is they'll give up 3 runs almost every time. That might be an issue, but with this offense, if they're really rolling, it really shouldn't be an issue, and at least he's giving you a lot of innings. So I think Bauer and Lance Lynn would be my 1 and 2.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. You mentioned that both of those, not Lynn, Bauer, and Clevenger, aren't necessarily liked by a lot of people. Um, so that's kind of where I run into a problem with things. So I
Yeah,
don't really know where I stand. I just would have rather the Dodgers have figured this out and we wouldn't even actually be having this conversation. It's not because Bauer and Clevenger are part of the conversation. It's just I would have rather have not even had to worry about this to begin with. So we'll see what happens. And next podcast, we'll either be talking about, damn it, the Dodgers should have done this, or holy shit, we have this new player on the team. So
right.
we'll
And
have
I
one of
agree with
those.
you. I would rather not have to go look for another player because I like this group. They're just not doing what they should do. And again, if they're going all in like it's been talked about, then they really should look for somebody to improve their odds of beating whoever.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of that, we're a little more than halfway through the season. Who's the biggest threat to the Dodgers reaching the World Series?
Well, after last night's game, if the Giants somehow make the playoffs, it might be them. But if we're being actually realistic here based on who good teams are, um, I don't really see a true threat in the NL. However, at least not yet. That could change if you look at a team like the Padres who they had won 7 in a row prior to losing Tuesday night. Um, Maybe like the Cubs or Atlanta, but even then, I don't have any worry when I think about the playoffs, and it's been this way for like 2-3 years now. I don't think about the NL. I go, and clearly, like, maybe I should because we saw what happened last year with the Nationals,
Right. Yeah.
but I I just don't. Nobody in the NL worries me. It's the Yankees. It's possibly even the Twins offense, and it's the. I don't think the Astros are a better team, but it's everything that comes with what would playing them. That's really all I think about. So I
Do
don't
you ever think
know.
about like the Rays pitching?
No, I do not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know why. There's certain teams that to me, even if they make the playoffs, I don't know if they're really going to get it done. And it's the Rays pitching is very, very good and they could get there, but I don't know. I don't see them going to the actual World Series.
Not the A's either. The A's don't they have the best record in the AL?
Yes, they do. Maybe the A's. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about AL teams outside of the fact that the
Right.
Twins hit a ton of home runs. The Yankees are very good, and the Astros are the Astros. There's competition. I don't think any team would just be rollover. I don't think any NL team would be just an easy matchup. I think anyone we face could be difficult, especially in a season like this. There's just no anxious feeling like in the past, maybe like 2015, 16, 17, it was great. We have to worry about the Cubs. Like, I just don't have that feeling anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know you said when we ask this question, the answer can't be themselves, but it's like, for me, that's the point I'm at, that it's like, how can the Dodgers not fuck this up themselves before they get to the World Series? Because that's what last year was. The Dodgers beat
Yeah,
themselves. So I don't know. I think I know we can't answer they can't beat themselves, but my like intuition tells me every time we go into the playoffs that if the Dodgers
it's
don't beat
themselves. Yeah,
themselves, we have a
and that's
chance.
why I said it, because I think that was just like the easy answer, because
Yeah.
it is themselves.
Yeah. If the Dodgers don't beat themselves, I see them going to the World Series basically every year for the last 3-4
Right.
years. So yeah, that's where I stand with that. I'm assuming your answer doesn't change. I mean, not that I know about the Padres, but the whole beat themselves thing, I kind of feel like we're on the same page there.
Yeah. So I didn't say, I just stayed away from that and just tried to pick a team. So yes, the Dodgers have struggled against the Giants so far this year, but they also struggled a lot against the Diamondbacks in 2017 and swept them. So not overly too concerned about the Giants. The Giants do usually play the Dodgers tough, but I think at playoff time it's going to be a different atmosphere, and I think the Dodgers will just kind of go through them. I'm not really worried about the Giants. At some point, that offense is going to go back to what it usually is, which is nothing. So you just kind of get wait it out. Um, on paper, the Braves should be the toughest opponent, but they've, much like the Dodgers, kind of struggled with. I won't say the Dodgers have struggled with pitching because they haven't, but the Braves have struggled with pitching. And the Dodgers usually play them well, so not too concerned about them either. Um, the Cubs started off real hot, but have settled down quite a bit. Um, they did beat the Dodgers in what, 18? Yeah,
No,
18,
wait,
17,
no, they won in 2016. 17,
16. Okay,
17, we went
sorry.
to
Yeah,
the World Series.
yeah, you're right. You're right. So they beat the Dodgers in, I want to say 15 and 16, or maybe it's just
No,
16. I
I
don't
think
know.
15 as well. I think. Actually, I don't know. I know 16 for sure because that's the year they won.
Yeah. Okay. So they've beaten the Dodgers in the postseason, but I don't see that team being like an immediate threat. Chris Bryant is always hurt, and because of that, he's hot and cold. Anthony Rizzo's really good, and Javi Baez is really good. The catcher as well. But other than that, I don't. I mean, Ian Happ can get hot and cold or whatever. The starting pitching doesn't really strike me as something to fear either. So not the Cubs. Honestly, I still think if the Cardinals get going, like if they start playing games, then they could be more of an issue than anybody because they seemingly always play well against the Dodgers, if we're being honest, and they have decent starting pitching. So at this point, I would say the Cardinals or Braves are going to be the stopping point, but most likely the Cardinals, just because they seem to have the Dodgers number for whatever reason.
That they do. Um, yeah. So I think that's it. Is that it for you this week?
I did want to say one quick thing. This has nothing to do with baseball, but there was a video going around about the police shooting an unarmed black man in the back 7 times. He is now paralyzed from the waist down. There's talk about the Raptors and the Celtics not playing tomorrow or forfeiting their game just to make it more known around the world. So the whole thing with the whole bubble thing is players didn't want to go because they wanted to focus on what was going on with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. And then this happens. So now these two teams are saying we want to make a stand and get it out to the world that this needs to be taken seriously. We just can't keep playing and hoping that things turn around and nothing's changing. So they want to protest, and I think that's super dope of them because we're in the playoffs now, so it's a really big game for these two teams who are probably the two best teams in the East, and the Bucks. But yeah, those two of the three best teams in the East. So I think that them showing solidarity and wanting, I don't know if they will, but them talking about forfeiting the game, I think is really huge, and them wanting to go out and do more. Or players, and also players have said they would. The coach of the Raptors have said that players told him that they could just leave and go home as well, just leave the bubble and just, I guess, forfeit the rest of the playoffs. So I think it's dope that they're willing to sacrifice a possible championship to go out and do something that actually means something in the world. So shout out to the Celtics and the Raptors, and I wish more people would take note of this and start doing something, because this what's happening right now in this world, it breaks my heart. It isn't right. I'm not a person who cries, but like I start getting teary eyed because they're just the police are just doing whatever the hell they want, and it's frustrating to say the least.
It is. You're right. I have nothing more to add to that because it's everything you said is 100% true, and we need change. I'm actually, just because you brought it up, I'm going to read it. David Price tweeted about this morning. He said, "What happened to Jacob Blake is not right. You don't have to be a person of color to see that. It's wrong. We need change. Love how the NBA and NFL shed light daily on this matter. They continue to fight for the necessary change that's needed. Silence is violence." So, again, agree with David Price. Don't know how much I agree with the NFL part, just because we've seen, Colin Kaepernick is literally still not playing. So, but NBA is doing a big, like, way over not over the top. I don't want to say over the top because this deserves the attention, but for what we're used to seeing leagues and teams do, this is like way above and beyond what I think a lot of fans expected. So I'm happy that leagues are doing it. I'm happy that the Dodgers I'm totally blanking on what the name of that was, but they were doing a breaking the barrier Zoom call. I think it was today. That they were having some people speak. So I'm proud of the Dodgers to keep doing stuff. All I hope for is that it keeps happening and things don't just die out when life is back to normal and 2020 is no longer here. It has to keep going. All of us, like people, players, leagues, everyday citizens, that's the one thing for me is it can't be forgotten once life is normal again and people have the time to sit on Twitter and to express themselves and go out and protest because they don't have jobs. And it's great that people are doing that. It just has to continue to stay that way once we're all back in not living in this disaster of a world that is 2020.
Right. And another thing is Doc Rivers also said something yesterday. Even after the big win, he decided to talk about this, and he said, "We keep loving this country, and this country doesn't love us back." He got really emotional. It kind of made me emotional. Again, I'm not really a big crier, but this really does break my heart, and it's disgusting, and it really needs to stop.
Yep, I agree with you. But I think were you? I don't want to cut you off and say, "Are you done?" Because that sounds rude. But did you have anything
I
else?
know
this
had nothing to do with baseball. I have a platform, and I felt like I needed to say something.
No, that's fine. That's what everyone with a platform should be doing. We should all be doing it. So that's good. I just want to make sure I wasn't cutting you off before we sign off of this podcast. So if you are good to go, as always, we thank you guys so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and also leave a rating for us on Apple Podcasts. You guys are the best. Don't forget to follow us on social at Dodge Yard, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your day, morning, night, or whenever it is you listen to this. So we will see you guys later. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.